The BAME Vision logo, 4 solid circles from left to right in colours of brown, tan, coffee and beige, with the words BAME written in white within them, with the word Vision written in tan underneath, and below the words Supporting Ethnically Diverse Communities with Their Eye Health and Sight Loss in brown. BAME Vision presents celebrating blind and partially sighted parents with Krishna, Seshasayee.
Good morning, I'm Krishna Seshasayee. I live in the city of Glasgow, and I'm a visually impaired person suffering from degenerative disease. And just to tell you the background, I basically come from southern India, and I migrated to Scotland about 32 years ago, and lived here since then. I've been working here since then, just retired 5 years ago because of my visual impairment. And I got my family with me here, my wife and a boy and a girl, 2 children who both are now grown up and they're working away. And I will describe myself as a very positive-minded person despite my visual impairment, looking forward to basically every day with some enthusiasm and happiness. And I do a lot of things to keep me going, actually. For example, I'm a talk and support volunteer for Retina UK, and then basically I actively get myself involved in different charities to promote them. Then I go for movies, walking, visiting museums, then basically tandem cycling, etc. So I kind of generally try to have a fully booked day so that, when I go to bed in the night, I don't have to look back, oh my God, it was a wasted day. I never feel that because I really keep myself busy. And not to forget, the talking book is my wonderful kind of thing for me, because I really listen to a lot of books, and that really keeps me happy. And then also radio is my biggest companion. Listen to different radio stations to get the latest information, music, stories, and all that. So altogether, even though I'm visually impaired person, I'm very blessed, with a good family and a set of good friends. And I try to do my best, to stay positive and get something out of my life. Of course, I retired a few years ago, but until that time, basically my profession is an electrical engineer. So as I said before, I moved into this country about 32 years ago. So the last 32 years, I worked in 2 different companies. I started with a company called John Brown Engineering, actually, where I worked for about 10 years before that company basically was closed down. Then I moved to my next employer, company called Mott MacDonald. It's basically an internationally reputed consulting company. I worked there for nearly, I think, 19 to 20 years, actually. So when I retired from a fairly senior or a middle management position, like what you would call as a senior principal engineer, because basically I was a technical person. In both jobs, actually, my employees were fantastic. Of course, the first job I did with John Brown Engineering until 2000, my eyesight was fairly okay. There was no problem as far as my eyesight was concerned. I was happy going and working away and traveling around the world. Went to so many different countries, and name it, I can say I went there. And then when I joined my second employer in 2000, Mott MacDonald, and that's where basically after a few years, my eyesight started to basically go downhill. But then my employer was such a fantastic employer. Basically, when I told them that, they took it basically very well, and they told me, Krishna, what we value in you is your brain and your work ethics and how hard you work for this company. That's all it matters to us, mate. We don't worry about a visual impairment. Don't even worry about it. Just tell us what kind of support you need, and we'll support you all the way. So don't even think about the fact, that you can't see and all that. So I got so much support from both the companies, and believe it or not, again, I feel myself as a very blessed person to be working for 2 great companies. And I'm proud to say that when I retired, from Mott MacDonald a few years ago, my daughter, who's also an electrical engineer, she followed me. She's working for the same company and probably dealing with some of the same colleagues with whom I used to work before. Yeah. So altogether, the working experience has been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that's what I would like to say, Sylvia. Because once you join a good company and they understand you and you understand them generally, and why you want to leave them, because they take care of you, and basically, and you can see yourself, kind of progressing reasonably well. You don't want to go because you kind of develop a set of lovely colleagues, and then friends as well. and then you like the kind of work you do. I used to love my work, so much, because my work meant so much for me. And in fact, to be very honest, Sylvia, if only this visual impairment had not come about, I would not have retired at all. I was so happy to continue until I died. I would not even worried about dying in the office, because I loved my work so much. And all my colleagues, if you ask them, they will tell you how much I liked, being an electrical engineer and working away in the office. I used to absolutely love it, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How did you get into your job?
A very fascinating story. I basically, what I did was, as I said before in my introduction, I'm basically from India, right? So way back in 91, basically just around the time, I basically returned from Saudi Arabia, and I was working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for about 5 years. Went back to my native country, India, and I just married before that, So basically, I had a young child as well. So we decided, yeah, that's it. Now I got basically reasonably well established, and I was a very good employer with in India as well. So I decided to settle down there and basically go from there. But then, as it happens, actually, suddenly when I was working in India, I saw this advertisement, basically where they said, that John Brown Engineering, one of the very reputed companies from the United Kingdom, located in Glasgow, they were looking for engineers, actually, of different kinds, electrical, mechanical, and all other categories. So I thought, my God, because this company's name I knew before, because I came to know about them in Saudi Arabia. This company's name always fascinated me. When I saw that, I thought I should go ahead and apply. But my wife said, please do not apply, because once you apply, you'll get the job. Then basically, and then we will be under pressure to basically probably to go there. And why should we go when we are well settled here? And I got a lot of relatives in India, and I was in a good job. There's nothing really, that bothered me there. I could have easily worked there and retired. But then, as it happens, my ambition drove me and curiosity drove me. So I decided to basically apply. And then very soon I was basically called for the interview. And the gentleman who came from Glasgow, who interviewed me, they were quite impressed with my work experience background. They said, come on, Krishna, we would like to offer this job to you. Can you come to Scotland, and we'll give you a work permit for 4 years. So you can work there for 4 years. And at the end of the 4th year, well, you can go back or you can continue, but we don't promise any citizenship or anything. So on that basis, I came here in 91. With a very young family, my wife and my son, was 2 years old, and came here, work here for 4 years, and then go back. But then when the 4th year ended, then the company basically said, yeah, you've been working good for us, and I think you are happy here. Why don't you just continue? Why you have to go back now? Because we go back to India also to work there. So I said, okay, I'll continue for a few more years. So 4 years become 5, 6, 7, like that. And then my company said, that traveling for you is a problem because you got an Indian passport. So why don't we'll try to get you a British passport, then that means you can travel more easily within Europe. I agreed, and that's it. And then basically my daughter was born here, and then they started to go to school. And then 5, 6 years become 10 years, then 20 years, and now 30 years now. You see? That's it, and that's how I came here, came as on a work permit visa, and started to work here. I liked the place here, and my employer liked me, and my children started to grow up here. So basically that means I was had to stay back, to basically for the sake of my children, and of course like my work as well. And Scotland is a great country as well, that can't be denied. So everything contributed towards me staying back here. And just 32 years have gone by, Sylvia, just like that. Yeah, I retired only basically because it became impossible for me to work, and then I was putting a lot of pressure on my wife, because she was the one who was looking after me, taking me to the office and bringing me back in the evening. And sometimes I'd work very late till about 8 o'clock, and she would be sitting with me there to bring me home, and only many days, it will be just myself and her and the cleaners, So I thought it's not justified, even though I was still enjoying my work. I thought, no, I'm putting too much pressure on my wife. Let's call it a day, because by the time I'd worked nearly for 45 years, I think, yeah. 45 years of uninterrupted work, in basically in 3 different countries, starting with India, then I went to Saudi Arabia, then went back to India, then came here to Scotland, so altogether. So I've done a pretty good kind of pretty kind of long I have a very long kind of professional working kind of career, nearly 45 years, I think.
Do you get support with your work?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, talking about the support, basically, as I said earlier, this eye problem really started to get more and more magnified, in my with my second employer, that is Mott McDonald, when basically that is around 2005, 2006, that kind of time. That was the time basically my eyesight really started to go downhill, and with a lot of noticeable changes where reading a document was getting more difficult, and walking on the street and all that, or roads, was a bit getting more difficult. Well, at the time when basically I explained this problem to my employer, believe it or not, I was absolutely overwhelmed with the kind of support I was getting. For example, my colleagues, I think I have to mention the names here because I don't mind, because the names that come to my mind straight away are Stuart, because I don't want to give his family name. Stuart, for example. Then there's Jamie, then Andrew, and then there's another fantastic lady called Carol. She was basically supposed to be the secretary for the whole office, but then, believe it or not, many ways she was acting as my personal secretary, because she used to help me in so many different ways, and I even do my typing and editing my. I produce a lot of documents, specifications, and all that. She will basically edit it for me to ensure that spell checking is done and everything. So basically, to start with, the colleagues around me, I just mentioned a few names, that many more actually, they gave a fantastic support actually, and made me feel don't have to worry at all. Krishna, and they used to call me Sai also there in the office, and I was more known as Sai there. And they said, you nothing to worry, and we are there to help you, and basically, and we value you, and we really like you, and we appreciate what you do. So basically, support from basically the management or from my colleagues was fantastic. That's first thing. And then second thing was,
which assistive technology, gadgets, and visual aids do you use?
Second thing was, in terms of basically what other practical supports I can get, so that I don't have to disturb my colleagues every time. So basically, I started using the Microsoft the magnifier. So I had an IT engineer called Liam. Again, he was absolutely a fantastic person, because he used to be act as a kind of personal IT support for me. Every time I had a problem, sometimes I'll kind of struggle to put the password, he will come and do it for me. So absolutely fantastic. So with his help, slowly what I did was I started looking for different software. For example, one thing that comes to mind is Zoom Text, actually, that could magnify the screen, and also it reads the screen back to you. So when we identified that, then basically my employee said, no worries at all, we'll buy that software for you. So that software was promptly purchased, and then it was installed into my laptop. So basically, that way my ability to read the screen and to listen to the emails or the documents was getting much better. So like that, basically, as the time went on, as how basically technology was kind of evolving, and as more and more new softwares coming up, always my employer was quite willing to basically let me have those software, so that my working was basically working did not suffer at all, and I was not, I didn't have to face a lot of hardships in terms of reading documents and all that. And then, believe it or not, Sylvia, I still was very active. Now that I was only staying in the office, actively still I was traveling around the world. Countries I visited during the time was, I went to Tunisia with Jamie a few times. Then I used to go to Ghana with Stuart and others, Jamie again, and Andrew and all these people, And then basically, I went to Spain so many times. Just to mention a few countries. Everywhere I was going, my colleagues will walk me, just holding on to my hand, get me seated inside the plane, and then on the other side, they will ensure that I come out with them safely, take me to the hotel, get me checked in, And I'm a pure vegetarian, so wherever we went to eat, they will ensure basically I get food, to my choice. So all along, believe it or not, they were so supportive of me and they took care of me. So altogether, I will say, in terms of support from colleagues, from the management, and in terms of using assistive technology, etc., I was basically absolutely very fortunate to get every help that I wanted. And then my colleague and dear friend Stuart, every day, even though he used to work on the first floor and I was on the third floor, he will come up every day in the afternoon around 3 p.m. to go to the coffee corner and get me a mug of coffee, because they didn't want me to walk about with a coffee mug, kind of bump into somebody or anything like that. So he will go on and bring the coffee and give it to me. And Carol, the secretary, she used to do that. And there are other colleagues as well. And everywhere when I walk, used to go around the office, people will kind of ensure that I was kind of safe and whatnot. And everybody, in the whole office, they knew me very well and they gave me such a wonderful support. Even the security into the building, basically they used to kind of take good care of me so that I entered the building safely and exited the building safely and things like that. So amazing, actually, the support. And I get basically absolutely fantastic in every aspect. And again, I would say I'm very, very lucky, that I could get all that, Sylvia. Value in me, and we unfortunately hear a lot of sad stories, like I was recently in an annual basically general meeting, the volunteers meeting for Retina UK, and some of them basically described, like when they disclose their visual impairment issues to their employees, they did not take it in the positive light, and asking them, can you continue to work? I kind of started to raise the questions and all that, like that, in a very dubious way. And then compared to all of them, I'm just to say, I was thinking how fortunate I am that the fortune, I'm so lucky to join two great employers, and especially in the case of Mott McDonald, they're absolutely fantastic. And, it's all the way to the top as well. Everybody knew, went to Japan so many times, so lucky. And just because of my visual impairment, my project manager or nobody basically prevented me from traveling anywhere. They said, no, this guy is the perfect guy, he's a great guy. He will do his job and we will support him to reach there safely. And then they were not even hesitant to put me in front of the client, because sometimes the client will say, I'm paying you so many pounds per hour, and this guy is a kind of visually impaired guy. How he's going to do the job? My managers had such a confidence in me. They said, no problem. We will defend you. We will tell you that you are one of the best guys to do this job, And because of that, client also started to respect me, and so I went to Japan so many times, and every time somebody will take care of me. My colleagues in the Glasgow office, I had a number of colleagues from Brighton office, and everywhere, like, believe it or not, is a very humbling experience for me. Whether I should take any credit or not, I don't know, but I would say I was very lucky, to come across a bunch of very, very nice, special, top class people who were extremely great to me, and believe it or not, and nothing apart from the fact, that they were all human beings just like me, and not that we shared the common heritage or common ethnicity or nothing like that. It's just one thing that shared all of us was we all belong to the human race, and that kind of more or less kept us going together, and I can never forget them. So amazing, really, Sylvia. Never. And the voluntarily people will come to me and talk to me, because they knew that I was not in a position to move around in the office, from desk to desk. They will come and talk to me and say hello to me, Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How do you balance fatherhood and work life?
That was not very easy at all in both my jobs, that is initially with John Brown Engineering and then later on with basically Mott McDonald. During the first job, John Brown Engineering is very, very difficult. My children were very young, actually, like what was 7 and 6 and 9, that kind of thing, very tender age, when they were going to primary school. And basically when I traveled, I traveled to Far East, actually, countries like Malaysia, Singapore, and as far as Korea and Australia and all that. And basically some of these places, because I had to go to site, and then in fact I had to travel to Myanmar as well, So when I went to some of these places, I had to stay there for a week or 10 days because prolonged meetings, and then also basically, like a site, when you get there, you don't know how many days you're going to be there. So basically, it was very difficult for me to balance. And I was leaving everything with my wife because I had to go because it was my job, so I could not basically ignore it at all. So basically, I left it with my wife, to take care of the two children, and basically look after them, take them to the school and all that. And there was basically an occasion, where I was to go to Myanmar actually, and both of them came down with chicken pox, and there's no way I could basically cancel the trip. I had to go because others were kind of already booked in, so I had to go there, and it was very difficult, emotionally quite disturbing, but still I had to go. And it was not easy to phone back in those days, so no Wi-Fi and all that. Yeah, it was quite a testing time for me, and basically to balance the work with basically my the family life, because I was pretty much a devoted father, wanted to be with my children all the time. And they were a bit confused also because why father is just leaving us so frequently and going somewhere and coming back after a week or 10 days. I used to come back with a lot of goodies for them, toys and whatnot, which they appreciated, but still it was quite emotionally very draining for me. My son will write a letter or he's pretty good with drawing. He will draw a picture and then give it to me to remind me, that, so as to tell me, don't forget your children, that kind of thing, It's all good. But when I joined the second job, Mott MacDonald, by the time basically things were getting a bit better because the children were growing up. Still in the initial stages, I had a few issues. But I think the middle of the career with the second job, it was getting better because they were well into the secondary school, so they could understand father had to go and work, because otherwise basically he can't run the family, So yeah, so it was very difficult initially, and we don't have any relatives or anybody here, so I had to leave my wife with the two children. Often I used to get worried how she's going to manage them and kind of take care of them and all that. So it was quite difficult, basically, Sylvia. And looking back, I'm thinking, how did I go through all that, without any major kind of issues, but somehow we just managed it, but I would say it was not that easy at all. And then thankfully my visual impairment started, when I was into Mott MacDonald, when my children, I think, were probably about 16, 17, that 18, 19, that kind of age group, So when I traveled abroad, it was not a huge problem for them. They used to miss me, but it was not a huge problem, But in the first job, it was a problem. But thankfully, I had some eyesight, so I could just keep it going. Yeah, yes, Sylvia. Yeah. I think when it comes to my just purely focusing on my work, like the one thing probably I can't manage to work without is basically being with my colleagues, actually, Sylvia, because being with my colleagues, was fantastic because in terms of interacting with them and talking to them and basically taking help from them and giving them help, and taking help from them and giving help to them in return, all that made a big difference. I always used to love the nature of my job, but without colleagues, I don't think I could have managed at all. In fact, if I remember, when we used to travel, my colleague Stuart used to say, kind of deal, I will walk you into the meeting room and then you are going to do the talk, Sai Krishna, and so that's exactly I used to do. And I used to memorize the minutes of the meeting, and before everybody could even start looking at the minutes of the meeting, I used to quote, so item 4.4 is this and all that, So, and so it was fantastic. And my colleagues were the ones who looked after me, took me everywhere, like countries like Ghana and all that, kept me safe, fed me and all that. So I don't think I would have enjoyed my work even for. I think the biggest barrier is not the family or even the children, actually, is basically finding the right job and the right employer, Sylvia. Because if you find the kind of job that you like, that's the starting point, according to me, where day to day you want to get up and then you're ready to go and work, so so the job has to be basically something that you really like, love, and hold it very close to your heart. That's a very starting point, according to me. Then A good employer, meaning when I say good employer, basically is the whole thing as associated with a good employer. Good office, good working environment, great colleagues, and basically appreciation and understanding of the employer and the people around you, that the kind of value that you add to the company, add to the business, So that's a very, very important. So I would say the biggest barrier, in terms of basically kind of having a family and doing your job is many cases, people can't find the right kind of job, right kind of work, that they like, and also the right kind of employer. That's what I would say based on my own experience talking to so many other visually impaired people. Often they talk about how the employer, they don't understand and appreciate, the skills they have, and they only focus on the fact, that you can't see, and they never see and what you can see. Maybe you'll be the cleverest person in terms of solving a problem. They don't see that. They will only see you can't go independently, So that's where I was very lucky, basically with respect to Mort McDonald. They see the real skill in me, and that's how it all worked very well for me. So I'm thinking finding the right employer for a visually impaired person, especially having a family, is probably the most important thing. Yeah, absolutely. Annual conference, some of my fellow volunteers, they mentioned how when they kind of disclose their visual impairment to their managers, and they did not really appreciate or look at them. They started to look at them differently, suddenly, what this person is talking, so it is very important, so once it got a good employer who understands, even though you're visually impaired, you're still a perfect and a competent person, then I think things can work very well. And then you can definitely manage your working life and your family. Of course, all those hardships will be there in terms of traveling, this and that. You have to depend on your colleagues and others as well. But everybody is dependent on somebody else, isn't it? Nobody's. I will never use the term independent, because independent doesn't mean anything. That means you are living all alone on the face of the earth. Just one person. It doesn't happen like that. Even a fully fit and visually normal person depends on basically somebody to basically look after him when he's sick, or he needs a doctor, or he needs transport to travel. Nobody's independent. So we're all dependent on others for something or other. So I don't think they're visually.
What would your advice be to other vision impaired parents looking to work or follow their passion?
Absolutely. I think working is a must, of course, for economic reason. You can't run your family. That's very basic to understand. But going and working can absolutely totally enhance your life and make a big difference to your mental kind of health as well. Because the moment you go and work and start to do something, and active, and then start to really produce something, straight away that feeling, you will understand only when you're actually doing it. It kind of makes you feel as if you're a new person, because you think, here I am visually impaired, I'm contributing, I'm working here. My work, whatever it is, maybe you're producing a drawing or you're chairing a meeting or whatever. Here I am doing something which is benefit for the benefit of the company or benefit of the society or whatever. So straight away, you will see your activity, what it brings, to the office or to anybody else, and then that certainly elevates, and then you start to feel more proud of yourself. That self-esteem in yourself develops actually. So basically, work is definitely is recommended. Without work, then and then another biggest thing is, I will again touch upon on that point. When you go to an office and work with others, despite your visual impairment, you are going to interact with a lot of other people, colleagues. I'm pretty sure if not all of them, most of them are good people in this world. And with that kind of environment, you will feel very positive, and talking to them, working with them is a great feeling, and you'll feel as if you're part of the actual community, and you're not left behind because of visual impairment and whatnot. And then, as far as looking for the work is concerned, I think you have to look at yourself as a person, and based on your own strengths, and not about your weaknesses. The last thing you should think about you're not able to see, or your visual impairment. Just look at yourself. Okay, here I am. What are my strengths here? Is my communication very good, or is my brain works very fast, or basically, I'm a person, basically I can thrive under kind of very stressful conditions. and I'm a great coordinator in the sense I can easily deal with a lot of people and work in a team kind of environment actually, or my technical ability. Technically, I'm extremely good, and that kind of thing. So just basically move away from your visual impairment and focus on your, just sit calmly in a place and think about your strengths actually, and then look for a job that will basically give you an opportunity for you to use your strengths, to the maximum and come out successful at the other end. That's exactly happened with me. My strength was my technical ability as an engineer. Actually, that was my starting point. All the other things like communication skills or team player and all that is certainly necessary. But my biggest strength to start with was the technical ability. And always looking back all those years, I try to maximize on that, cash on that. And that ensured, that I could stay afloat, and basically keep doing my job successfully and even change my jobs and all that. So that's what I would advise. Just maximize on or cash on your biggest strength, and then look for a job or an opportunity that will basically give the chance to you to use your biggest strength, to its full advantage. Yeah, that's what I would advise for anybody who's looking for a job, Sylvia.
Thank you so much, Krishna, for a brilliant contribution to the series. If you'd like to read part 1 of Krishna's interview, you can head over to our website www.bamevision.org. Stay tuned as we have plenty more coming up in this series and much, much more. You can keep up with our activities on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.